The reversal of this planetary symbol, here as displayed within the painting, is due in part to the extraordinary discovery on the part of the author, me, who in the year of 1987, while studying Fray Diego Duran's ancient manuscript, the Book of Gods and Rites and the Ancient Calendar, had brought me to immediately realize that a royal symbol representing the summer months in ancient Mexico was in fact the traditional stellar constellation of Leo, as the Mesoamericans had perceived it in at least one of its forms. This symbol is displayed and explained by Duran as being a stellar constellation that represents both the 7th and 8th 20-day month festivals, which were called respectively Tequilhuitantli and Huetequilhuitl, meaning the Little Feast of Princes and the Great Feast of Kings. We do not really know exactly what this stellar constellation was referred to as by the Mesoamericans, but tentatively I have named my personal discovery Xihuitzole Pachoa, which is Nahuatl and basically means the turquoise crown of the governor. I chose this name for the symbol because there is a representation of the royal diadem that is shown, in conjunction with a hand crushing a tortilla into form. The word Pachoa in Nahuatl was a political term, which means to press down or crush, and by extension to give form. Eventually, this term was extended to the manner in which the king pressed the community into place. The Nahuatl word for tortilla or tortilla is actually called Tlaxcali. So alternatively, a more official name for this symbol could be Sitlal Xihuitzole Tlaxcal Pachoa, meaning the stellar crown of the governor crushing the tortilla into place. The so-called jade disc found at the center of the design, I believe, may have simply been a representation of the centrality of the sun at the apex of the heavens at the time of the summer solstice. Just as earlier, we had observed a similar jade disc in the belly of an alligator within the Codex Laud painting, which no doubt represented the nadir or midnight of the sun. These conclusions made by the author are due to the cyclic positioning of the stellar symbol within the year and its associations with royalty, and also with respect to the position of the 7th and 8th 20-day month cycles, which are part of a larger cycle of 18 20-day months that comprise of the year and celebrate the passage of the seasons and the sun's movement through the ecliptic. These were all at once collectively referred to as the Metzli, which is a Nahuatl word that means moon. The curious resemblance that the symbol has to a reverse numeral 4 and the planetary symbol for Jupiter is, as it turns out, not an accident. The connectivity between the Arabic number and the planet's symbolism can be realized in the ancient cycles of the sun. Throughout ancient history, the stars of Leo have always had associations of royalty and political power. The royal association to the stars of Leo are no doubt due to the fact that in extremely ancient times around 4000 BCE, the summer solstice sun would have had to occur while stationed within the constellation of Leo. Also at that distant time in history, the summer solstice would have had to occur 4 moons after the spring equinox. This in turn would have generated a then current notion that Leo was the 4th sign of the zodiac. Furthermore, the sun was not necessarily considered a power unto its own. Rather, in extremely ancient times, the sun was considered to be in a cyclic unity with the planet Jupiter, amounting to a Jupiter-Sun cycle of 12 years. This 12-year cycle may have been understood as a fertility phase. The unity of this cycle accounts for the association of authority with Jupiter in conjunction with the sun and the stations of the zodiac. For this reason, the ancient scribe who created the Jupiter symbol chose the constellation of Leo as being related to the sun as its foundation. Later, this symbol became the basis of the Arabic numeral 4, and finally, both were reversed to become the numerical and planetary symbols we know today. This is my discovery and my understanding. Even more than that, however, is the pertinent possibility that the constellation of Leo is also the basis of the planetary glyph for the planet Saturn. This, however, is achieved only when the constellation is seen descending westward or setting, symbolic of the sun's death. The unity that is described in the Saturn-Sun cycle is one of 30 years, and would indicate a further unity found within a Jupiter-Saturn-Sun cycle. Almost perhaps in an effort to describe the passing of the equinox cycle, this planetary Saturn glyph then became the basis of the Arabic numeral 5, further illustrating the current position of Leo within the zodiac as the 5th sign of the lion. Perhaps as well, we should not exclude the possibility that the identification of the number 5 with this constellation and Saturn's glyph may relate to the concept of the center or 5th direction, while Jupiter would correlate to the aspect of the 4 directions. With 4 times 5 equaling 20, we then would have the number of years between the recurring Jupiter and Saturn conjunctions, which have always been known to take place. In any case, this final realization between the likeness of the Leo, Saturn, and the numeral 5 symbolism had happened on October 20th, 2009. and so this shall be also the date for my claims as the owner of these ideas with regards to the constellation of Leo and all the newly mentioned symbols related to it. Moreover, in addition to the Saturn glyph discovery, also comes with it the most pertinent of all symbols related to the constellation, which should be the traditional symbol of the zodiacal sign itself. It finally becomes obvious in this case that indeed, the symbol is the lion's mane, and that the circle that terminates the symbol at the left side represents the star Regulus. The name of this star is said to mean the little prince, and has become the basis of our word to regulate, and even regular. However, it had also become obvious to me that this name was merely an anagram of the ancient Mesopotamian name for the Leo star group as being called the Great Dog. It should also be mentioned that the additional star included at the base of my symbol is the star Sig Leo, a star of which Saturn was in a conjunction with on the date of July 25, 2009, when the painting was in process. Now, 1 year later, as this essay is being executed, the Sun is seen to be approaching the Leo star group while Mercury is conjunct with the star Regulus and Venus is within the location of Sig Leo. The location of this star Sig Leo in relation to the ecliptic has been recognized since ancient times as an important marker for the passage of the planets along with the star Regulus. The basis of my numerical discoveries in relation to Leo can be observed at the article for Arabic numerals at Wikipedia, which displays these pictures. There, one may familiarize themselves with the many strange glyphs that indeed resemble the stars of Leo. It is also recommended that any further analysis of Arabic numerals be pursued as well, wherever they are to be found. Furthermore, there have long been the mysterious 12 and 30 years, or conceptual ages of Christ, which has been recently compared and corroborated with the ages of the Egyptian sun god Ra Horus in the book Christ in Egypt by D.M. Murdoch. With this relative comparison, we are further committed to understanding the 12 and 30 orbital years of Jupiter and Saturn cycles as an inherent aspect of the solar life of the Sun and the creation of an ancient solar deity. This, of course, should be further corroborated with the 20-year conjunction cycle of these two planets, which is so important to the numerological theory of the Mesoamerican calendar and the unfoldment of the year cycle, and which is also further recorded within the Mayan long count as the 20-year period of the Katun. For that matter, it is also worth mentioning at this point that there are 3 cycles of the 20-year Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions and a full 60-year cycle of the Chinese calendar that blends the 5 elements with the 12 signs to equal a total of 60 years. So for that matter, it should be noted that there are also 2.6 cycles of the 20-year Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in a period of 52 years within the Mesoamerican calendar as well. Indeed, 2.6 times 20 equals 52. 26 times 20 equals 520, which is a grand cycle of the Shiva Pueli for being 10 cycles of 52 years, and which is to be found encrypted within the symbolism of the Aztec sunstone. The numbers above must be regarded as approximate, since the actual value of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is closer to 19.86 years rather than a solid, rounded-off number of 20. About Jupiter. Astronomically, we know that the Sun plays the primary role as the life force and source of the solar system. This fact is also reflected in the world's ancient mythological cosmologies, which in turn have helped contribute to the composition of a scientific notion of astrology through the creative guise of ancient astronomy. Yet what we are trying to reveal and point out in this essay is that at one time, very long ago, the 12-fold Jupiter year cycle and the Sun itself were perceived as one and the same by the astronomical seers. This idea was to some extent explored earlier and implies that by stripping the Sun away from this 12-fold Jupiter cycle, that the preeminent Indo-European image of the planetary deity of Jupiter was then finally born, and so was to then be elaborated upon as the king of the skies, and particularly the night sky, in both of the ancient Western worlds of the Greeks and the Romans in particular. Such a comparison of the Jupiter cycle with the life cycle of the Sun amounted to the observation of a steady astrological clock in the skies, which may have helped determine agricultural cycles through the study of rainfall patterns within the 12-year Jupiter-Sun cycle. In the Asian Orient, this cycle was at some point finally transformed into the 12-fold zodiac of the Chinese year sign calendar. Of course, the problem that remains is that if the official Jupiter cycle was then, as it is today, only 11.86 years, then the planet Jupiter would be moving too fast for the 12-year cycle, causing it to be in an opposition to the 12-fold year calendar cycle in a period of 498 years. That's 249 years per each quarter of the zodiac. After 996 years, the planet Jupiter and the 12-year animal cycle would once again coincide as a conjunction. In the Orient, this discrepancy between the two cycles may have been accounted for by the invented concept of a counter-Jupiter. However, the complete details of this artificial astronomical cycle are still being examined by me. But in any case, to some degree, it would appear that the 12-year cycle may have generally functioned as a kind of artificial Jupiter computer, or that, in other words, the 12-year cycle is conceivably a kind of orbital resonance chamber for Jupiter's movements. Such a theory, which examines the properties of planetary orbital resonance, actually underlies the mathematical concept of astrological signs and houses in general, as they have been utilized throughout history.